Welcome to Coast View, the show that every single day celebrates the men and women who are making coastal Mississippi such a great place to live, work, and play. Hey, we have a special show today with Jeff Duncan from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. We'll come back to him in just a second. We usually have him on Fridays, but he's been on vacation. I actually took a little vacation myself. We're gonna talk today, and then he's going to be going off again for a couple of weeks. So before we do that, I just wanted to share with you that I did a post at the Coast View Facebook page about the most recent activities of the Coastal Mississippi tourism effort. And by the way, if you haven't seen that post, you can go to the Coast View Facebook page, like it, and follow us. All our shows are posted there. They're also posted at the SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast Facebook page, the SuperTalk Mississippi Facebook page, the YouTube page, your favorite podcast. But on Facebook, you actually have the opportunity to get insights or metrics around the number of people who are engaging with a specific post. And the engagement around posts that I've been doing, especially the one that I'm going to mention to you, the engagement around the posts I've been doing related to the Coastal Mississippi tourism effort has been truly incredible. I mean, thousands of people have engaged in the post, which is extraordinarily high for a topic like that. I think it's good news. It's a sign that people are finally paying close attention to what's happening not only on the Coastal Mississippi Tourism Board, but also with the Harrison County Board of Supervisors. But I won't read the whole post to you. You can go to the Coast View Facebook page and see it. But I'll hum a few bars to you. And essentially, this is what I said. Harrison County Board of Supervisor, excuse me, Connie Rocco has decided she wants her legacy to be. She wants everyone to know that she can do things and no one can stop her. And I put it parenthetically. That's not actually true, but she believes it. There doesn't need to be strategic logic. There doesn't need to be concern for regionalism. It doesn't have to make sense. It surely doesn't need to be thoughtful, truthful, deliberation, and collaboration. And I go on from there. I'm actually I'm proud of Rebecca Powers and Marlon Ladner. They're working overtime to try to get to the bottom of this. We're going to learn a lot by who votes with Connie going forward. We're going to learn a lot about, whether we're going to sign up for what I would refer to as kind of Bush League tactics, or whether we're going to really put the region in full view and really care about tourism the way that it needs to. I saw this sound off in the Sun Herald. I thought it was great. I'm going to read it to you, but the headline said, "A scene from Mean Girls." And here's what the sound-off said. Am I the only person embarrassed by the Board of Supervisors and Coastal Mississippi Tourism Board? It constantly seems like a cafeteria episode from Mean Girls. It is time to wipe the slate clean and have members that are more concerned with the interests of the community instead of their own. Boy, I can't agree more. But that's a good sign, too. It means that people are really paying attention to the subject. And we will certainly have more to say about it as we go forward. Anyway, now let's shift gears and move over to my friend Jeff Duncan. And first of all, just say, how was time away, Jeff?
Hey, Ricky, it's good to get a little time away and kind of recharge your batteries. This is really kind of our downtime in the sports world over in New Orleans. So it's nice to take a break and, like I said, kind of get your mindset, because before you know it, training camp's going to start here at the end of the month.
But boy, man, as you know, the news doesn't stop because Jeff Duncan was on vacation. We've had some big news. We'll come back to Zion Williamson, and that's huge news. But I want to actually talk just real quickly about some non-sports news, because you're a reporter in New Orleans. You pay close attention, and I've said this before. I know many of them. The team of reporters at NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune are some of the strongest. They're multiple Pulitzer Prize winning team, some of the strongest in the United States. The work that John Zimmerman and Carly Wells are doing around the shootings on the highways in New Orleans, the most recent headline being at least 18 people shot on New Orleans highways this year. The whole system is broken. Man, first of all, John and Carly are doing great work, but man, this is a major problem, isn't it, Jeff?
Yeah, I don't even know where you start, because like they said, the system's broken, and there's not enough police here to maintain the metropolitan area and for people to feel safe, and it's showing in the crime stats. I think they said the last report, there was only 850 police officers. I mean, I can remember, Ricky, 1,200 is kind of the standard. You want to be at what you'd like to be. Lots of times it's more like 1,100, but the 850, that's scary. And I don't know anybody that wants to be a police officer anymore. So that's the problem. That I don't know how even the mayor. I know she takes a lot of blame for it, but this has been going on for generations here, decades in New Orleans, and I'm not sure I see a solution right now.
Well, it was, again, we won't go into great detail, but on the shooting that involved the Texas family, just riding down the highway, man, just get, wrong place at the wrong time. But the reality is, when the police came to the scene, they were like, this is normal. They were very complacent, and not until someone else that had been shot who drove herself to the hospital did they even begin to do anything that even resembled an investigation. But their complacency about something like this, you would be with 18 shootings on the highway, buddy. You would think this would be national news, that this is all we'd be talking about, but it's not on the national radar screen at all, and it is a serious problem. And I tell you, the focus that John and Carly and the editors are putting on this, with the interactive map and all of that, so people can go in and see where the shootings are occurring. I think that's what great journalism is about. It's about helping to solve the problem. So hopefully, your team will continue to do a good job on this one and bring the necessary attention to it. Something else you wanted to say, Jeff?
Well, I was just going to say, I've lived here 22 years. I've never had one incident of crime. I've lived in a number of different places. So, it's obviously an issue, but then there's, I've lived here for a long time and it has never affected my life. So it's a hard thing to address because it obviously is happening. I've had friends affected by it, but I'm either fortunate or, I'm obviously aware of areas that would be hot spots that you avoid. So I'm just trying to speak to the reality of living here. It hasn't affected my life so far.
Well, when I lived there, I lived in the warehouse district, and as you know, I'm a runner. I ran regularly all down the river through the French Quarter. I mean, literally every street of the French Quarter before it was all said and done. I never once felt unsafe. But again, the reality is the stats prove it out, and there's an issue, and it's systemic. There's it's cultural. There are a lot of issues, but at the end of the day, it can be a dangerous scenario if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. So that's just the way it is. You've written a lot about the Carver High School football stadium. It's not just a story about a football stadium. It's much more than that. And it's a project that's been going on for 14 years, but you've covered it closely. What's the latest on that?
Well, this is a good story, a very kind of uplifting story about a project that looked like it had been derailed, and unfortunately derailed because of incompetence and malfeasance. This goes back to post-Katrina, and Teach for America's teacher here named Brian Bordanic, who started a fundraising campaign to build a football stadium on the Carver High School campus down in the Upper Ninth Ward. Really neglected area, part of New Orleans. Carver High School has produced a number of great athletes, and most notably Hall of Famer Marshall Faulk, who played, of course, at San Diego State and was an awesome NFL player. But they've never had their own football stadium. That's one of the things that's interesting. When I moved to New Orleans, Ricky, I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky. We had our own football stadium at the high school. I mean, it was just every high school had their own stadium. Well, in New Orleans, there's just not a lot of land, and these schools are packed into tight campuses. So they have to share like municipal stadiums here. Very few schools have their own stadium, very few. So that kind of shocked me, and I think Brian Bordanic felt the same way. Raised all this money, over $1 million, became a national post-Katrina story. Sean Payton gave money, Drew Brees gave money, a lot of celebrities gave money, and it all got squandered because he had to hand the project off to a group, a Carver alumni group, that really didn't know what they were doing, and I don't know if they did know what they were doing, but it all fell apart. All the money was gone, and it looked like it was dead on the vine. It was one of those sad New Orleans stories we all hear about. And thankfully, Arnie Filko followed our stories that we did on it. And he got energized, former city councilman at large, president at large, and also Saints executive. And he's raised the money through a new group of board of directors, civic activists, and they've got almost $7 million now. And this project's going to happen probably by the end of the year. And it's really kind of amazing that it actually has been revitalized.
That's so awesome, and thanks to your good journalism for really staying focused on it. Hey, when we come back, we're going to share some majorly good news for the Pelicans and for the city of New Orleans that Zion Williamson has signed, and what that means. That means big deal. That's a big deal. This is the team that could be feared now, and we will talk more about that when we come back from break. Welcome back to Coast View. I have my friend Jeff Duncan with us today on a rare Monday appearance of Coast View. He is a reporter and columnist from the Times-Picayune and NOLA.com. He specializes in the Saints, but Pelicans and a little bit of LSU and a little bit of just about everything. He's a horse racing expert. He knows a lot about golf. He's just a smart guy. Okay, Arch Manning. I don't know if that had happened since last time you and I talked, but that was big news. And actually, I think we did talk a little bit about it. But the bottom line is, good thing he went ahead and got that out of the way, isn't it?
Yeah, look, Texas was kind of the leader all along privately. They were the leader in the clubhouse, and it made sense once he'd gotten done with all of his visits to kind of pull the trigger and let the other schools that weren't going to get his services be able to focus their recruiting on another quarterback prospect. So I think the way they handled it, the family and everyone around in his support group, total class act as we would expect from the Mannings. And I know Ole Miss fans are disappointed and LSU fans are disappointed, but I felt like Arch wanted to kind of walk his own path, not in the shadows of his grandfather Archie or his uncle Eli or Peyton. I think he really wanted to kind of have his own path in life, and so that's why I think Texas was a good neutral decision. He really likes Steve Sarkisian, the head coach, and I think they feel like they can resurrect Texas football. We all know it's a huge, powerful program.
Well, it's going to be so much fun. A lot of my friends, including myself, are going to be Texas fans now once he gets there, and it's going to be interesting to see, as you pointed out before when we talked about this, that the coattail effect. We're going to see some top flight receivers head that way, and other players that want to be part of a winning situation. I mean, the spotlight, good Lord, man, it's going to be so intense. It's going to be fun to watch. It really is. Okay, Zion signed. You were concerned at one point that might not happen. There's a lot of family involvement and whatever. Things finally did settle down. A lot of question marks about his health and all that. But we're in a good place now, aren't we, Jeff?
Yeah, look, this solidifies the future, the near and immediate future of the New Orleans Pelicans. Getting him on board with the max contract extension. Of course, the way the NBA business model is built, this max extension allows small market franchises like New Orleans to retain their high draft picks, and that's why it was put into the CBA to be able to allow this as a tool to keep superstars like Zion Williamson from jumping to other bigger markets. So look, it worked in this instance. Every number one draft pick, Ricky, since they've put in this mechanism, has ended up re-signing with the franchise that originally drafted them, because it's so heavily laden financially toward the original franchise. So it just makes sense. It was really not a huge surprise. But what has happened, and we've talked about it on the show before, is there was some division internally between Zion Williamson, his family, and the front office with the Pelicans, and it was real. I mean, people don't act like it wasn't real. They're in denial. It was a real thing, but it came a long way, and there's been a lot done behind closed doors, a lot of, I think, repair in the relationship, and it's come to fruition with this signing. And so I think the future of the New Orleans Pelicans, I don't think, has ever been brighter than it is right now.
And what you're hearing about his health?
Well, I mean, he's back. I mean, he's cleared. He's playing. He looks in great shape, and that's something he's always going to have to deal with. I mean, he genetically, he is a big man, and his family are big people. So he's going to have to always work on keeping that extra weight off and staying in shape because he's had lower leg issues. We've got a knee injury now and a foot injury. And if you don't maintain your weight, we all know that can lead to more problems. So as far as we know right now, he's in good shape. We'll find out, in a few months when they report to camp.
Hey, do you anticipate, I mean, they always make changes, but do you anticipate changes in the core of this team? Or do you think, wow, these pieces are really coming together?
No, I think they're pretty set right now. The age of this. What's really exciting about the Pelicans roster is almost all the key players are in the early 20s. We're talking young talent that's only going to continue to get better with stability and continuity. So I think they want to keep this core together. Obviously, the old hand is C.J. McCollum, who they got in a trade last year. Jonas Valanciunas is a little older. But for the most part, the top players, Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, Herb Jones, that group, that core, all in the early 20s.
It's incredible. And McCollum, we probably can't overstate how much of a calming influence he was, not just for the team, but in Zion Zion settling down some. Am I overstating that?
No. I think he's a big reason why this all came together. Him and Willie Green, the head coach, I think have done a lot of work behind closed doors on Zion and getting him comfortable here and getting his family comfortable here. And I don't see anything to stop it now. I think everybody's on the same page. That wasn't the case 6 months ago. But just as David Griffin said this past week when they had the signing, actions speak louder than words. And him signing this thing with no player option, that's another important facet there. I mean, there's no option to opt out. Brandon Ingram's here for 5 years. Zion Williamson's here for 5 years, unless something drastic changes. And I don't see why it would. Like we said, it's a young core. They all like each other. They're hungry. And you got a terrific young head coach that everyone enjoys playing for.
Well, Willie Green has made a difference, man. You said this before, but I mean, he was a really important piece of this puzzle. We needed someone who could relate to the players, and that was the issues before. We had coaches that weren't relating with the players, and it was a major problem. And Willie Green has really changed the course of history. He's done extraordinarily well in that regard, hasn't he?
Well, I think that David Griffin a year ago at this time was in trouble. He needed a big year as the general manager, I think, to save his job, and he knew that. And organizationally, from the hire of Willie Green, to the drafting of Herb Jones and Trey Murphy, finding Jose on the market, in the free agent market, bringing him in, they've done an incredible job in 1 year organizationally and turned this thing around. And now I think like I said, I don't think the future's ever been as bright. Zion Williamson is a megastar. He moves the needle. Brandon Ingram's a great player, terrific player, but he doesn't move the needle like Zion Williamson. Very few players in the history of the NBA have moved it like Zion Williamson. He's got this megawatt personality, spectacular athleticism, and he's in the social media era we're in that we've never seen a player come out of college basketball like him.
A real testament to Willie Green and David Griffin was obviously, you get toward the end of the season last year, you bring McCollum in. The team was playing extraordinarily well. Most people would have written them off. They came back with a vengeance. They've started to find a sense of chemistry between the players. They were moving fast, shooting well. And then you add Zion to the mix of that dude. Whew! Man, I hope that chemistry just picks up from where it left off and just continues to boil, because it's going to be fun to watch. I think it's going to be great for the financial side of this team. I just see people wanting to go to Pelicans games again, and the rest can be history as it relates to that. Hey, if you're a Saints player, what are you doing right now as you get ready for, what's going to be the start of the training camp?
Heck, I think most of those guys are probably on some beach somewhere. I think they're probably. You got to get away from it. There's very little time for the players to get away anymore. So this is the time. Some guys obviously coming back from injuries or rehabbing, trying to get ready for the season. Jameis Winston, Taysom Hill, obviously Mike Thomas. Those guys, they've got work to do. But the others, I'm sure, are recharging their batteries and probably relaxing a little bit because, I mean, training camp is going to be here July 27th, the first practice. That's 3 weeks away. So it'll be here before you know it. It's going to be grueling, man. This heat that we're dealing with, we've talked about it before, it's not for the light-hearted. So this camp should be very compelling for a number of reasons. A new head coach, obviously Jameis Winston coming back from injury. Mike Thomas will be back. We don't know what's going to happen with Alvin Kamara. There's a lot of storylines to address.
A lot of storylines in terms of what pro players are doing right now. It's clear that some of them are on vacation. I saw a few, I think, on planes on the way down to Dominican Republic at the airport. At our resort. I didn't bug them, but it was clear they were not the typical human being. You sort of know one when you see one. But it's gonna be the season's gonna be here before we know it, and we're gonna start to learn a lot, man. We're gonna learn about these key injuries. I mean, as you said so many times, everybody can come back, but if Jameis doesn't come back the way we need him to come back, our season really rests on his shoulders. You still feel that way, don't you?
I'll say this, Ricky. I think the one thing Saints fans might want to look for, I'll be surprised if they don't execute a trade in the next 3 weeks before camp to get a running back, just as a contingency plan for Alvin Kamara's situation. I know that's something that they brought in David Johnson, the veteran. He had a tryout. They couldn't work out a contract. So it kind of tipped their hand there that they're not comfortable going into the season with the current running back situation because we don't know the uncertainty around Alvin Kamara. So I look for them to make a trade. I bet that happens.
You know something, but you're not selling it.
We'll
Jeff
see.
Duncan from NOLA.com at the Time Speaking. Have a good one, man. Enjoy vacation. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
All right, Ricky. Take care,
You
buddy.
bet, bud. Take care.